True Lies has finally crawled its way to Blu-ray and 4K UHD, released alongside The Abyss and Aliens. Thankfully, True Lies is available in the UK, unlike The Abyss. True Lies has had a frustrating home video history release over the years, first arriving on VHS and Laserdisc in the 90s, with it appearing on Laserdisc in 3 versions, one with a Dolby Digital track, another with a DTS mix, which is pretty rare and expensive, and a director's approved pan and scan release. It arrived on DVD in the early 2000s, but has been out of print for a long time. It did get an HD 1080i release on the short-lived format of DVHS in late December of 2003, which was VHS tapes in HD quality. You can see why it didn't take off. People had moved on from VHS, and people were more than happy with DVD, despite the quality of the picture being in standard definition, and those DVH players were very expensive and would frequently break down, making it tough to find them in a decent working condition on the second-hand market.
Barry, seconds count, buddy. Ditch the bitch.
True Lies was a massive hit back in 1994, costing over $110 million, and made a hefty $378 million worldwide, and was very successful on home video. So it's kinda bizarre, a film that was one of the biggest hits of the 1990s would take so long to land in HD for the mass market. True Lies has been broadcast in HD over the years. If you are based in the UK, it's been on ITV so many times I've lost count, but without that Blu-ray release, it was like The Abyss, trapped in a world of standard definition for many years. Fox had planned to release it on Blu-ray in 2012, with interviews shot with Jamie Lee Curtis, Bill Paxton, and FX supervisor John Bruno for a new making of, but this new Blu-ray would get cancelled. I would imagine the studio butting heads with James Cameron, who had strict control and approval of his back catalogue and how they were presented. Only the last couple of years, the DVHS version would find its way to a Spanish Blu-ray, which many believe is just a bootleg, but at last it's out officially and in 4K.
That's a fine animal.
The old transfers of True Lies were a mixed bag. The THX approved transfers from the 90s were a bit uneven. The sharpness level was too high, the colours were oversaturated, where all the skin tones looked very orange. Of course, the image had a decent amount of detail, and probably looked pretty good on an old CRT TV, but it looked like it had been processed within an inch of its life. The early HD transfer was a step up in quality, but doesn't look great by today's standards, looking a bit washed out, especially when you compare it to scans of the 35mm trailers on YouTube, which demonstrate how good the movie looked when originally projected in theatres. Like The Abyss, True Lies was shot on Super 35mm film, with a mix of large format celluloid film for the big FX heavy sequences. We have the issue with unwanted grain rearing its ugly head as the image is cropped to fit a 2:3:5:1 aspect ratio, as the film was not naturally shot that way by using anamorphic film.
Let's face it, if they took care of business, I'd be out of business, you know what I mean?
Those idiots.
With Park Road Production Services working on the new remaster, their new AI tools have gone to town on True Lies. This film is the biggest offender of these new 4K remasters of James Cameron's small back catalogue of work. Apparently taken from a new 4K scan of the 35mm print, the image demonstrates a big increase in detail and resolution naturally, but there is bizarre smoothing going on with the actors' faces in a large number of shots, and some moments the film looks out of focus, which was not apparent on the previous transfers, making for an uneven picture throughout. The aggressive adjustments to the image are mostly in the first act of the movie. The dance number, the scenes in the Omega headquarters, and with Jamie Lee Curtis in her office. There are of course other moments that stand out, but didn't seem as consistent compared to the first quarter of the film. The AI tools seem to smooth out the soft parts of the actor's skin, but sharpens their wrinkles, making for an overly sharp picture that at the same time looks too soft. Also, everyone's hair in close-ups looks unreal and shiny. The film, however, no longer looks too saturated and warm like the old transfers, having a more balanced colour palette, taking on a cooler look. There's one shot that stood out that made me think they hadn't touched up the image at all, with any noise reduction. It's when the nuclear bomb goes off and Jamie Lee and Arnold react before and after it explodes. The image looks superb. Throughout watching True Lies, it felt like I wasn't watching a movie shot on film. It looked like I was viewing a movie shot on digital cameras. It was too clean, despite a small amount of consistent film grain visible. If they apparently did a new scan of the original film print at a 4K resolution, they wouldn't need to use any tools to bring out the detail, as the source material would have had that all there. True Lies, I imagine, would just need some minor adjustments for some colour balance and to remove any unwanted dirt and scratches. Applying this new tool to sharpen and denoise the picture results in a strange viewing experience that isn't unpleasant, but doesn't seem natural. With it being in 4K, you can see Arnold's stunt double more than ever now, and it becomes quite obvious that his double does most of the work in the film when it comes to the action. True Lies comes with a new explosive Dolby Atmos mix. This film has always sounded fantastic since the days of Laserdisc. Having an explosive surround sound track is to be expected. It nicely includes a DTS stereo mix for those who don't have the luxury of a big surround sound speaker setup. The new extra features are a little lighter than The Abyss. It drops the old featurette that strangely wasn't included on the Laserdisc but was on the DVD in some territories. The old Laserdisc only had a couple of trailers and production notes on the gatefold sleeve. Surprising considering The Abyss, Aliens and T2 both got jazzy special edition box sets, but True Lies was bare bones, considering Cameron was a big advocate of Laserdisc. This Blu-ray includes a new 45-minute making of, with new interviews with Arnold Schwarzenegger, James Cameron and head of production at Fox, John Landau, and with the old interviews recorded back in 2012 included, and is very informative, including some great B-roll material, but it plays out the clips from the movie for a bit too long, so a bit tedious if you watch it after viewing the film.
Get lost, dipshit.
Despite the disappointing transfer, many casual movie fans will see it available in-store or online and say, "Oh yeah, I remember True Lies, I love that film," and would purchase it and probably won't notice much of an issue with the picture, because at the end of the day, you're still getting a great film. I loved True Lies since I was a teenager, with it having so many funny moments thanks to Tom Arnold.
So your life's in the crapper, so your wife's banging a used car salesman. It's humiliating, I know, but god damn it, take it like a man.
And the late great Bill Paxton.
Get their pilot lit, they can start a leaf blower.
The standout performance is Jamie Lee Curtis, playing the oppressed, conservative, timid wife of Arnold who longs for adventure, and turns from this Clark Kent persona into this confident woman who can take care of herself. Though there are things in the movie with it dealing with terrorists in a comedic way, and how Jamie Lee is portrayed, that would ruffle a few feathers now. It's interesting that Cameron was working on a sequel, but after the 9/11 attacks, he felt it wouldn't be right. The action in True Lies is spectacular and over the top, with some incredible in-camera work and miniatures. The destruction of the bridge is still amazing to this day. What really holds up is the Harrier jump jet sequence. For 1994, the CGI work stands up after all these years, and the ingenious idea of having a full-size prop on top of a building to simulate the finale really sells this sequence. Really inventive stuff thanks to one of the best FX supervisors of the 1990s, John Bruno. It's hard to recommend True Lies for AV enthusiasts, as the transfer will drive them potty. It was like watching that version of Predator on Blu-ray called the Ultimate Hunter Edition from a number of years back, which had every shot smoothed over to remove the grain, ruining the picture. This new transfer of True Lies is not as bad as Predator, but I was honestly disappointed. The 4K transfer didn't wow me and left me annoyed James Cameron approved it when the issues are clearly visible. These new AI tools may be really handy when you have really old material that is in need of saving, but True Lies is not that old and its original photographic look doesn't need updating. True Lies, I think, is peak Arnold Schwarzenegger, as the rest of his movies of the 90s and into the early 2000s were a mixed bag, and this will be the last time he would work with James Cameron under his direction, so for me it's an important movie in Arnold's filmography. So if the transfer issues don't really bother you that much, then I imagine you would pick it up soon or have already purchased it. But if you are like me and you are pretty annoyed with the adjustments made, then I recommend sticking to the old Laserdisc, DVD, or for most, the old HD master. For a film that many fans of action have been waiting for years, we've been delivered a bit of a dud with its new 4K look. I just hope moving forward other filmmakers don't deploy these types of AI tools to remaster their movies, as the results are very dubious and you end up with an unnatural picture that non-experts will notice and question why it looks so weird. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to click the like button and hit the bell to be notified of my latest reviews. Big thanks to my patrons and YouTube members for supporting the channel. If you want to get involved and gain access to exclusive videos and take part in Q&As, follow the link below.